It's been less than 3 months since we rode the revolutionary new Harley-Davidson Livewire in America, and we're back here in California to ride another new motorcycle. Now this one is far more conventional, and instead of an electric motor, it runs a good old big V-twin. Say hello to the 2020 Lowrider S. This motorcycle is Harley's newest addition to the Softail family, and its existence is inspired by the latest trends in America's West Coast custom scene. You'll see the effect of that in things like the mini headlamp cowl and the wide handlebar, which sits on top of a 4-inch riser. Most of the Lowrider S is in black, but there are some nicely contrasting chrome touches on the engine fins, the push rods, and the exhaust tips, which nicely offsets the otherwise dark theme. Completing the custom look is a single seat layout, but Harley's accessory catalog will allow you to convert it back to a two-seater if you like. Visually, the rest is very similar to the Lowrider, which includes the fuel tank, dual gauge instruments, and the shape of the rear fender. Under the skin, however, the Lowrider S is more familiar to another bike from the Softail family, the Fat Bob. The reason for this is that the Lowrider S uses the Fat Bob's frame, which brings a 2-degree reduction in the steering rake angle, and it also brings the Fat Bob's UST fork and dual front disc brake setup. The biggest differentiation for this bike from the rest of the Softail family is the design and what Harley-Davidson calls a West Coast style riding position. So how does this feel? Well, let's call it a bit of an acquired taste. To be more precise, this seating position just doesn't feel very natural. The foot pegs remain in the same mid-position layout as a standard Lowrider, so your legs aren't stretched out as far as you would imagine on a Harley-Davidson. The handlebar position is vastly different as well, and the tall bar has you stretching forward and wide. In an urban setting, this riding position feels very California cool, and it's understandable why Harley-Davidson calls the Lowrider S the quintessential badass American performance cruiser. About half an hour later though, this transforms from badass to just a pain in the, you get the point. Your shoulders, arms and lower back are always working to maintain this position, and the mid-mounted pegs will make a tall rider feel a little locked in as well. The good news is that Harley riding positions are almost infinitely tweakable, and you could swap the bar, pegs and even the seat out for a range of accessory units that will help you find something more agreeable. In case you're wondering why you should bother going through the effort, well, there is one very good reason that we haven't addressed so far. For those of you curious about the name, the S at the end stands for special, and whenever Harley gets the name special, that means you get a blacked out treatment and a bigger engine. While most motorcycles in the Softail family run the 107 Milwaukee 8 engine, a few models get the bigger 114 engine. What that means in the metric system is that you're getting a larger 1868cc V-twin, which is about 110cc more than the motor in the standard Lowrider. Torque goes up by 12 Nm, which takes the total to 161 Nm, all of which is available at just 3000 RPM. With such a massive capacity and no interest whatsoever in crossing the 5000 RPM mark, this motor is a titan of torque. The throttle response is smooth, but you have to be very careful with your inputs at low speeds because this hog is always ready to leap. I'm a fan of the Milwaukee 8 series of engines, and this one is just as likable. Nasty vibrations are a thing of the past, but that old school Harley rumble and roar is still intact, and the bike surges up to 140 kph with absolute ease. With so much shove on offer, it's a good thing that the chassis can match, and the Lowrider S feels stable in every situation, although that is something you'd expect from a machine that weighs 308 kgs fully fueled. Over California's patchy canyon roads, the suspension's firm setup was apparent, and the Lowrider S doesn't mind a bit of playing around. The braking setup is powerful enough, but without bordering into sport bike space, and the Michelin Scorcher tires perform in a similar fashion. But as with pretty much every large Harley-Davidson, the fun slams to a premature end when the foot pegs grind down. With just 30 degrees of cornering clearance at either side, you could scrape these pegs at city speeds without much effort. Keeping with Harley's sense of old school motorcycling, the only electronic assist you will find is a dual channel ABS setup. In that sense, the Lowrider S's engine and chassis combine forces to offer a riding experience that's very particular to a Harley-Davidson, but good fun all the way through. If that's something that sounds interesting to you, you'll be happy to know that the wait isn't going to be very long before this bike arrives in our market.
The Lowrider S is going to launch in India in just a few months' time, and when it does, it'll be the most affordable Harley with that 114 engine. Whether this is going to be the best motorcycle in the Softail lineup, well, that's an answer our wonderful roads will just be itching to provide.